Hi, welcome to Stats for Informed Decision Making. And as you're preparing to work on your paper, your research paper in stats class, just wanted to give another heads up on how to organize your information. I've been getting some drafts of hypotheses, and they're kind of much more difficult than you should do for this class. The thing is to make your hypothesis come to a realization after you've done a little bit of research on seeing if there's some data out there or some papers out there to give you a story. You're writing a story for somebody. So let's say you want to do a correlation study, and I think that's the easiest and the best thing to do for a research paper. You shouldn't go out and do a survey. Technically, if you do a survey and you're dealing with people, you're supposed to get permission from the review board here, the internal review board here at USM. And you don't have the time to do that. It's also very time consuming. It's also very work is the most of the work would be done in just collecting the data, and you want to spend as little time as that as possible. So look for data that's already available. So where do you find this data? Well, let's say you're going to do a correlation. Yeah, I'm highlighting this one right here. Okay, so you're going to, let's say, the U.S. Census Bureau. I just did a couple of clicks here, and this is the state of Maine population in 2013 estimates. So if you're doing some estimation, there's a lot of information on the U.S. Census Bureau about every state, and you can find percentages, the poverty rates, you can find the average income, the median income of people, the amount of people that own houses or rent, and so on. So there's a lot of information. This is not the only place to find information, but it's available quite readily and easily. So you find some data that you can actually find to make correlation. Then you help formulate your hypothesis. And empirical statements, that means the relationship between two or more things. So try to avoid the things like, let's say you're going to compare U.S. spending on science and space and technology with suicides by hanging. Okay, well, is there a connection here? So try to find connections between something. Now, what I did, for example, is there a correlation between the poverty rate and the number of dogs in each state? Okay, in other words, the poverty rate in each state and the number of dogs in each state. Well, that gives you 50 pieces of data. You can find the correlation between the poverty rate, you can find the poverty rate, and you can find the number of dogs in each state. Now, you have to be really specific. So if I'm talking about total dogs, I'm talking about total dogs. I have some people who send me hypotheses and said purebreds and mixed breeds. Well, exactly which purebreds are you talking about? Is that information available? If it is, fine. If it's not, you're going to do a lot of work just looking for it. So have an idea that the data is already available. So that's your hypothesis, okay? And you're going to write it in your introduction. I'm going to include this link here on how to write a research introduction. I found it's very easy. It's WikiHow. And what it does is beginning opening paragraph with a few sentences supporting information about your topic. Okay, so it gives you all of this stuff here, and there's another few steps that you can do. And it says finally you can evaluate to read your introduction. I'm sorry, I'm going here to put your hypothesis towards the end. But this is where you put your research. So you have to find the research articles. Remember that assignment, research article that you did and you evaluated? Now you're going to find some articles about your subject. Okay, about your subject. So again, if there's no article about your subject, then change the subject. There's a lot of articles about everything. So if there's nothing about poverty rate in dogs, I'm dumping this hypothesis. Okay? And look, I put it in the question, is there a correlation between the poverty rate and number of dogs in each state? So I have to find. So this is where your evaluation of all those articles, at least 5, and make an analysis of these articles. This is just like the research article assignment you did earlier this semester. So that's the introduction. The next thing is the methods. Okay, where did you find this data? Is it the U.S. Census Bureau, American Dog Foundation, or whatever, the AKC? And as long as reputable sites, tell us what you will do with the data. So you went and found this data, and you will create an XY graph, and you're going to find the correlation. Very simple, okay? It's telling me what you did, all right? The next thing is the data and results. You show the graph, and you make the correlation. So the graph should look something like this now, even though these are spurious. For instance, the divorce rate in Maine correlates with the per capita consumption of margarine in the United States. So apparently, the more margarine that people eat, the higher the, actually it should be negative here because it's going down. So there's a negative correlation here. Of course, this is dumb, all right? So we don't do something like this. But it just shows you that this you would put in your data, in your results. You'd show the graph and you'd show the correlation. That's what you want to do. So there it is right there. Show the data that you have. Make sure everything is titled and labeled. And you have everything that you need, just like on the exams that you've been doing and on the other videos. So that's the results section. That's the data and results, okay? The next thing is the big part. This is your decision-making process. From your results, you write about the correlation. Make your decisions. So, is there a correlation? So, okay, over here, yes, there's a correlation. There's a negative correlation, 0.9. That's pretty high. 0.8. So you can see that these are pretty high. But if you had a correlation of about 0.2 or negative 0.2 or even 0.5 or negative 0.5, you really don't have much to stand on. And that was one of the questions on the first assessment, is when you're given a certain correlation and it's low, close to zero, then you have to write about it. So maybe your hypothesis is not supported by the data that you found. This is an important section. Throughout this whole paper, you have to write in the third person. You have to write in the third person. Okay? I'm going to make this bigger. All of this written in the third person. Must be written in the third person. What does that mean? Okay, third person means that you write using this language here. Examples of sentences. She went to the library. You do not write, I went to the U.S. Census Bureau. I did a survey. I did this. We did that. No, it's talking about you and the third person. So if you want to hear about how people talk in the third person, follow some sports stars. They talk in the third person all the time. But you have to write as objective as possible. Okay? Don't put your personal take. In other words, this is really a cool thing. Or, oh, look, this was fantastic. I found this. Or I'm doing the study because it's breast cancer and there's a history of breast cancer in my family. No, don't bring your personal aspect into the paper. It's very dry. It's not a composition that you would do in English class. This is a technical paper, so you're writing very dry. You are giving the facts. That's all you're doing. Don't embellish the facts. Don't say that they're great, but you can say that the correlation shows that the correlation is strong, things like that. But don't say like this is anything that's flowery, okay? And don't bring your own personal story into it. It has to be written in third person as objectively as possible. So I hope this helps you in formulating. And the last piece of advice is, I would say, send drafts. Send drafts, not on the day it's due, but send drafts before. Send drafts even when you have a sentence. Is this what you're looking for? Is this, am I in the right direction? And so on. Be surprised that the more drafts you send, the potentially higher grade you get. What a concept. Take care.